I apologize. So for some reason, everything's acting weird this evening. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll go from there. I'll keep looking at it in case. So Thursday, I did not have any class. I didn't want to go too far ahead, even though I basically have the same people on here now. I'm not going to waste any more class time. If people can't make it, they can't make it. I'll send them recordings, but we're going to keep on trucking through this. I don't want to lose any time, and it is what it is. I do want to say this, next Monday is Memorial Day. Clearly, we won't have class on that day because of the holiday. And we'll just resume. We're going to have class this Thursday and then next Thursday. So it will be perfect timing. Hopefully we can wrap this up tonight and then we can start into some other material, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll go through all the things and make sure we understand it. From where we left off, let me just briefly remind us where we were. We were talking about digital film or digital radiography. We were talking about both indirect digital and direct digital. I'll go through a couple of things just so that it's fresh in our mind. Just go over some advantages and disadvantages. And we were getting into regular film, the actual something that you can hold in your hands and use for all intraoral and extraoral X-ray pictures. Okay, so that's where, just to get it fresh in our head. In the digital radiography or digital imaging section, we were talking about the advantages and disadvantages of digital radiography. Some of the advantages are we can use less radiation than we would use with film. We can allow for enhancements, measurements, corrections. It's easily transferable, meaning that we can email files, the original files, very quickly. We can consult with specialists if necessary, and we don't have to wait for like that snail mail where we would have to photocopy or copy our regular in-person images. Digital, so much easier, completely easily transferable. Also for insurance purposes, we can send attachments electronically super fast. That means we get our responses back faster and the whole cycle. So that's a huge advantage. Another advantage for this is we do not need additional equipment. We can use the same intraoral X-ray equipment like we would use normally. The only difference is that for panoramic or cephalometric films, like if we were to do that, the machine itself is either going to be a digital machine or a film-based machine. So for any extraoral images that we may use, there's a limitation to that. It's either going to be a digital machine or a film-based machine. Very rarely do we see a film-based machine. They're typically electronic or digital, so we don't really have to worry about that. But I do like to tell you for intraoral, no change. We could keep the machine on the wall. The settings are going to be great. They're the same. We just have to reduce them. But for extraoral, the machine is going to tell us what kind of film we can use or digital pictures we can use. Some of the disadvantages for digital radiography are going to be the initial cost could be more expensive. Learning the software, sensors can be damaged and are a little bit costly to replace or repair. Infection control is huge. We cannot autoclave or heat. They are not heat tolerated. So the little sensors, the electronic sensors can't go in our autoclaves, which is a heat driven or steam driven sterilizer. So we need to put a barrier over them. So that could be sensed as a disadvantage. Also, learning of the software itself, there may be a curve, and also taking our regular, when we used to have manual x-rays where we take them and have to physically mount them into a series, if we had that, we would be able to digitize it, but that could be considered a disadvantage because we would have to convert all the files from a paper copy to an electronic copy. Nowadays, everything is electronic, so no issues. But if you were looking at 20, 30 years ago, maybe more of a disadvantage. Now, not so much. It's a lot. There's not that very many offices at this point that don't use digital, but it's possible in some rural areas in the middle of the United States, because they may not have internet access as easily ready. They may have to use the intraoral, they may have to use actual film. So that could be a limitation for them. But as far as we're concerned, if we have internet access, we can do digital radiography. Okay, awesome. The two types, just to remind ourselves, there's two types of digital imaging. There's direct digital imaging, which we take a picture and it directly by a USB or wireless system goes right into the system software. So pictures taken, boom, we see it immediately. We know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent. And indirect digital imaging uses something called a phosphor storage plate, which is a thin, fairly flexible, it's like film. It resembles film. It's almost identical to film, but it's made of phosphor, which is very sensitive to radiation. The only difference with that is we can use it, but we actually have to bring it to a scanner. So that's where the indirect comes. I take the picture and I physically have to enter it and walk it into a scanner that then produces the image on the in the software itself. That's what makes it indirect, because I'm not going to see it right away. I have to physically take it and scan it in and then clear it out. Again, here are the pictures. Very small, thin, flexible. This is a phosphor storage plate. And then again, our sensor or our charge coupled device, which is nothing more than electronic piece. There's an electronic chip inside, which we kind of talked about the parts of the sensor. Looking at it where it has fiber optics in it, it's electronic. And that's important because we can't really wet this. So we have to disinfect it with what would be a cavicide or a sandy cloth or some sort of intermediate disinfection solution, but it can't be soaked. We have to kind of wipe it gently in order for it to work. The two other types of digital imaging, which we talked about, digital imaging software, and then again, digitizing images where we're taking something in hand and scanning it into the software itself. We talked about some vocabulary in the packet. We talked about what an image is or radiograph. So when we say image, that's obviously after we process it, we see the radiograph, we see the x-ray, we see what's active in it. In the packet means that there's nothing on that yet, or it's a latent image. There's something exposed on it, but I can't see it until I actually process it. So those are a couple words that we need to kind of kick around in our mind. We talked about positioning instruments, which are these lovely either color-coded or these really cool bite blocks. We use these for different techniques depending, which next chapter we'll get all into that and how unique these are and what x-rays kind of render what, or like the names of the types of radiographs that we're going to take. But positioning instruments are all of these. They look just like this. Coloring, they're typically the same color for each one, but there are some brands out there that don't have a color significance. They go by shape. Therefore, they may just be tan and they are what they are. But typically what you see in offices right now are these color-coded, what's called XCP, which is extension cone positioning device. Now, dental film. We're going to dive into that this evening. So dental film is, I'm going to fast forward a second to what a film packet is, okay? Let me see if I can float this up a little bit here for us. Draw. I'm going to draw. This is what a film packet looks like, if you can look at it through there. When we look at that, there's going to be a series of items in what we call a film packet. I just wanted to give you a quick visual before I start kind of conversating about it and looking at composition. So first of all, we have to identify what type or what's important in film composition, okay, or why we're doing this. So we're gonna, in this next section, we're gonna identify the types of film. We're going to identify the sizes of film, the composition of what makes that film, and how the composition will affect the speed of that film. Now, speed is important, and we always want the fastest speed, because if we use the fastest speed film, that means we can use the least amount of radiation, and that's ultimately what we want, is to reduce the amount of radiation exposed to patients. So again, we're going to discuss the types of film. We're going to discuss the sizes and composition in terms of film speed, so that we can accurately take a picture, get a diagnostic quality, but use as low as reasonably achievable as far as radiation is concerned. Okay. Now, there's 3 types of film that we're going to be concerned and talk about here. Okay. These are types. We're going to talk about intraoral film, which we obviously put inside the mouth to take a picture of the teeth inside. We're going to identify extraoral film, which is what we use for external radiographs. That's your panoramic and your cephalometric. And we're going to talk about duplicating film. So once upon a time, when I said, oh, we're going to make a photocopy, in theory, if we had a live image and we didn't have a digital image, we would literally have to make a duplicate of that picture and send it out to people for referral, insurance. If they moved, for like if they were going to another dentist, we can never send our original copies. We only could send the duplicated copy, okay? Or we never can send the original films. We only could send the duplicated film for legal purposes. So those are the 3 types of film: intraoral, extraoral, and duplicating film. Okay. Now, with that, film is used to examine teeth and supporting structures. No matter what film is going to have emulsion on it. So let's talk about that. Emulsion is nothing more than a type of suspension gelatin. So imagine Jello. And we take film that we're going to take either intraoral or extraoral, and we dip that plastic that we would use, that base, into the gel, and that gel is emulsion. And inside of that emulsion has these little or large silver crystals in it, okay? A good statement to know is the larger the crystal, the faster the film. Why silver? Silver is very sensitive to radiation as well. So when it gets hit with that electromagnetic radiation, it gets excited and it almost stains it on it. It grabs the image. It attracts that radiation right to those silver crystals and impregnates that image in that emulsion onto the plastic, onto the image itself. Okay, that's just layman's terms for what's going on there. But we use emulsion, which is like a gelatin, and inside that gelatin are these silver crystals. The larger the crystal, the faster the film. And when we have that emulsion, it's going to be on both sides of both intraoral film and extraoral only. The difference with duplicating film is that I only have emulsion on one side. There's a slide that states that, but I like to say that. Why? I don't ever take x-rays on someone like original x-rays using duplicating film. I can't because it only has emulsion on one side. That means that when we expose that to radiation, it literally fogs up and turns gray. It will not show the image because it's not as sensitive as having crystals on both sides. Okay, so duplicating film only has emulsion on one side, so we cannot and we do not take actual x-rays using that film. It is only for copying or duplicating purposes. Okay, so that's our like biggest take on this, okay? Your three types, what makes them similar and different. And now we're going to talk about the film packet, okay? So a film packet, in case we don't say this out loud, film is very sensitive to sunlight. Why? Because it's a form of electromagnetic radiation. Why? Why is it still? Because we're using electromagnetic radiation to take an actual x-ray. So anytime we expose sunlight or any kind of light, UV light, your light in your rooms, bulb light, electricity light, they're going to damage or expose that film. So they have to be in a packet, okay? They have to be protected. Not only does a film have to be in a packet to protect it from sunlight, but also from moisture if it's going inside someone's mouth. I don't want saliva to contaminate it. I don't want saliva to ruin the image. Inside the packet itself. So with that being said, a film packet is going to basically either contain it's going to contain a few things, okay? There's either going to be one film packet or two film packet. Now you're probably like, well, why would we need two film in there? Well, a two film packet means I can take an x-ray and have two originals and not have to duplicate it, which is great. If you know that you're sending it out or know that it has to go somewhere to insurance or something accordingly, I may want to take a double film packet. One, to save me time so I don't have to duplicate my original. And if I had a double set, basically, because I had two film in one package, then I have two originals. I can spare to send one out and keep an original. So there's going to be a double packet, which will have two film, and then there's single packet, which is going to have one film in it. Now, film boxes, how do we know it's single or double film? Well, film boxes, so anything that comes in a film box, it's going to be labeled with what type of film it is. Is it intraoral, extraoral? It's going to give us the film speed. Is it fast or slow? Let me say this, I do cover it later, but just because we're all, want to know as I go, film speed is lettered from A to F. A being the slowest, F being the fastest, okay? So our film speed will be located on that box, that labeled box. How many films are in both individual packets? So is it a single film packet or a double film packet? It'll also tell us on that package how many total films or number of film packets we have in general. Is it a 50 box or is it a 100 box? And also it'll have film expiration date. That's important. We always want to make sure we rotate stock with anything because it does lose its potency. And especially with radiographs, after the expiration date, it could be that we get a very fogged image, and that's obviously not good for diagnostic quality. So we want to make sure our expiration date is good. I just want to keep checking to make sure I'm recording this. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so let's talk about the actual packet itself. So on the outside, we can call that the wrapper. We can call that the outside packaging. It could either be a tough cardboard or it can be a waterproof vinyl, okay? It has to be a covering on it. One, so it's kind of like waterproof or it doesn't let saliva get into that film. Two, it wants to be completely light tight, meaning it's not going to get light in that film. So the function of that outside wrapper is to protect it from light and saliva. Perfect. If you opened that package or that outside wrapper and look inside, we can also see a black paper or another black type of wrapper inside there. And what that is, it's protecting that film so it doesn't get scratched or bent as much as possible. It also, because it has that black out paper, it does cover it additionally from light as well. So if we close that black paper up, on the outside of that black paper, still inside our package, and I do want to say this, if you open up the black wrapper, the film is buried inside that black paper, okay? Because it's protecting that film. It's going to be good to cover it from light, protect it, make sure it doesn't get scratched, things like that. So if we were to close that little black paper up inside, on the outside of that, we're going to see something, it looks like an aluminum foil. It's a lead foil that's inside that packet. And what that does is it shields from that radiation. So if my lead is here and my film is in front of it, and I'm taking a picture, I'm going to capture the X-ray. It's going through the film and it's going to stop at that lead piece, okay? Because I don't want the exposure to go straight through. I won't get an image anywhere. It can't bounce back. It can't put it on there. It's going to just go straight through and never ends. So that's why you have this lead foil behind there to shield it from going past, which is great. So in this tiny little wrapper, you have all these little pieces here. So let me show you the picture of it as I did earlier. I'm trying to get it so. Can you see this a little bit better? I tried to kind of enlarge it. So where it says the contents of the film package, so here is the outside vinyl covering. This is going to be that lead foil that protects it. Here is the film, and as you can see, you have black paper here, and that film is nicely nestled inside that black paper, okay? And then if we scooched all this in and closed it, let me see, do I have a package of what that would look outside? Then it would be sealed shut. So all that we just expanded is stuffed inside and sealed shut, so it's light tight and moisture proof, okay? Is everybody good with this? Thumbs up for me. Any questions about the 3 types of film? We're regardless intraoral, extraoral, we're talking about the film packet at this point. It looks like this. This is for intraoral film packets. If I wasn't clear, that's what we're talking about right now. It's much different from extraoral, but this is for intraoral, okay? Let me put this back out. Okay. Now, I want to talk about the layers or the actual composition of the film itself. Okay, let me put this up again. All right, so now I'm here. I'm in the layers of X-ray film. Again, X-ray film is the core of it is made from a plastic acetate. So it's a piece of plastic, very thin, molded down to microns, super tiny, okay? For intraoral film, we're going to take that plastic acetate and we're going to, like I said before, we're going to dip it into a jelly that's called emulsion. And it's going to be on both sides, okay? If you look at here, you can see the emulsion, you can see the base, that's the acetate, the plastic that's in the center. I'm going to dip it into emulsion. But before I do that, how do I dip plastic into Jello and make it stick? Well, I need an adhesive. So first things first, I take this bit of plastic. I'm going to dip it in adhesive or glue. And then I'm going to put it in my emulsion, and my emulsion has my silver crystals in it, embedded in that emulsion. So it dips in, and as it pulls out, all of that emulsion is now stuck onto that plastic acetate with all of those silver crystals on both sides. And then they put what's called a super coat on it, or a protective coat on it. So all of that emulsion stays where it is, and all those silver crystals are pretty much frozen in time with that super coat. Or we can say it's another form of adhesive, but it's just a protective barrier. So really, there's only 3 layers here that we're talking about. The base, which is a plastic flexible piece that we're going to dip in glue. We're going to then dip in Jello with silver crystals in it, and then we dip into a protective coat that keeps everything in check here. So the real names are plastic acetate, if you hear that, adhesive, emulsion with silver crystals embedded in it, and then a super coat that protects it from going anywhere. Does that make sense? All good? No problem. That's composition. So if we're taking x-rays, whether it's intraoral or extraoral, that is what the composition of any film is. Now, caveat, I said it earlier, duplicating film, however, only has this emulsion on one side. So that means it's the plastic acetate. We only put one side on the adhesive, one side on the emulsion with the silver crystals, and one side of the coating. The other side is just plain old plastic. There's nothing to do there. I don't need it. I'm duplicating. I'm making a photocopy only on the one side, okay? So that is our film packet, just to kind of reiterate, talked about film packet, and then we went into the actual composition of the intraoral film itself. Again, let me just minus this down. Great. Now, let's talk about how we want to, if we were taking intraoral film or an intraoral x-ray using film, live film in someone's mouth, how we place it in the mouth is very important. I told you about that lead foil. That lead foil has to be the furthest away from the teeth when we take a picture. So what does that exactly mean? Again, our lead foil is at the end, the back part of that picture. The film's in front of it. The teeth would be literally in front of that film, okay? And x-rays coming this way. So the x-rays coming this way, goes through tooth, hits film, then hits that lead foil to stop any extra going past, so we get a clear image. If I were to have this film package reversed, where my lead foil was directly behind my tooth and my film was directly behind the lead foil, we're going to have a problem. I'll still see an image, but I'm going to get an error or something called a herringbone. What does that mean? I'm hoping, do I see a herringbone anywhere in here? Let me see if I have a picture of it. Mhm. Yeah, okay. All a herringbone is it looks like, if you ever saw a herringbone necklace, it looks like little dots that will go across the line of the film. So it tells us when we look at the image or the radiograph after we've made that error, we're like, oh no, I had the film backwards. I positioned it backwards. So we need to be aware of making sure that that lead foil is behind the film when we're placing it in someone's mouth. Now, you're probably going to go, well, how do we know that is there? Typically, the lead foil is always going to be where the opening of the packet is. We're not going to open it, but it's going to always be on that side. We call that the labeled side. So we're always going to have the label side away from the teeth, away from our X-ray unit itself, because that's the last part. Now, lead foil, and this is important, if you're ever taking the test, we need to identify what is a hazardous waste. Lead foil is considered hazardous and it has to be disposed of and not be disposed of with regular trash. So typically if we had film and every time we went to process it, we would take the lead out and then process normal. That lead will go in a lead box or in a box to keep that trash. And then we'd have to call the state or a waste company to pick up that lead because it's special disposal. We can't just throw it in regular trash. So it is considered hazardous and we have to make a note of it too. So usually we have to stick a hazardous sticker on it because we can't let lead get into our water or our dirt for obvious reasons that we all know. So that is the caveat with the lead inside there, that it does have to be disposed of separately and through a waste company that handles hazardous waste. Again, these are everything I just said. I wrote out in this little interesting little slide. I gave you the information about the outer packet, which could be a soft vinyl paper wrapper. It seals it, it keeps and it keeps everything inside. We talked about the black paper. We talked about the lead foil sheet. The tube side is what I was getting at. That is going to be where the side of the film, it's solid. It's usually solid white. Where the label side has that flap, and that is where we want to go away from our intraoral camera. So everything that I just said, I did put in words right here on this page, so you have reference to it. I know that sometimes words, when you see it, it resonates a little bit better. Intraoral film continued. So now we're going to talk about sizes. Before I do, is there any questions or anything regarding film composition, or the three types of film: duplicating film, intraoral, extraoral? I can't hear anybody, so you have to like give me a thumbs up or just be like, we're good.
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right, so there's going to be a couple of sizes. Awesome. Thank you, guys. There are five different sizes of X-ray film when we talk about actual film, okay? Digital sensors only come in a few sizes, but that's okay. I'll explain why in a little bit, but it's almost there. Now, typical film sizes will range from number 0, to number 4, okay? So number 0 film is a child size, a small child. That's for everybody from ages 0 to 3. Now, do we take these very often on children that are 1, 2, and 3 years old? No, but if we had to look at something, we would use a size 0, okay? Super teeny, super tiny, and it fits in their little mouth. It's still real tight, but if we need to take a picture, that child size 0 is going to be from ages 0 to 3. Now, we have an X-ray film number 1, size number 1. And there's a couple of different uses for this. So one, they're going to be for children. I'm going to say some words here that I haven't visited since the first class. Periapical is a type of X-ray and a bite wing is a type of X-ray, okay? So for a number 1 children, we can take a periapical using a number 1, and we can take a bite wing using a number 1 for children. I can, however, use a number 1 for, it's also called an anterior picture or an anterior size. And I can use that in order to take only on an adult an anterior. You're probably like, well, why can't I take a posterior? Well, an anterior size number 1 is like thinner than the next size we're going to talk about, but a little longer, okay? So it can capture an anterior root, but if I wanted to take a molar shot, molars are significantly bigger, and I might not be able to fit the whole tooth on that anterior size number 1 for an adult, okay? Children up to the age of 9 or 10, it works fine if we need to. But once you start getting adult teeth, all adult teeth, we're going to use the next size film, which is a number 2. It's called an adult size number 2. We're going to typically recommend to use that for all images for adults, both periapicals and bite wings. But we can also use the number 2 for children from the ages 4 to, I'm going to use 8 again, as far as what we would call an occlusal. So you're like, well, what's an occlusal mean? It means that I'm going to get just one arch, so just the top teeth in one picture, or the bottom teeth in one picture, okay? And it's just going to range from canine to canine. That's it. That's what an occlusal is. For children, okay? Adults, totally different, but for children, we only want to see that mostly to see eruption patterns and if they are starting to, if something is going to, one of their baby teeth are going to come out, do they have a permanent tooth there? We can see a lot during that taken in occlusal. So number 2 is an adult size. We take for all x-rays number 2 for an adult. And for children, we can use a size 2 for occlusals, okay? Now, the next size is a number 3. It's not very popular. It's called a preformed bite wing. And what that looks like is basically 2 number 2s long ways. So instead of taking 2 bite wings, one in the back and one on the little more forward, we can take one picture using the whole thing. Now, we typically see that in a film-based. I believe there is a sensor that is that number 3 out there nowadays, but very rare would we see it. We'll just assume take 2 pictures. Because if it's digital, the radiation is so low, it doesn't equate to have that very large X-ray that is adapted to get one picture. So you could see them, you could not see them. I have not seen a 3 sensor out in the world, or have I seen a digital version of it. I've only seen the actual film number 3. And typically I would see them in perio offices because they take bite wings frequent. And they just, that was the dentist choices. Like, it's basically by provider would be what they use, like their what their preference is. The last size is size number 4. It's an occlusal. Now, for an adult occlusal, it is going to be 1 arch at a time. So you're going to get from molar to molar either a maxillary occlusal or a mandibular occlusal. They're taken separate. You're either going to get your top jaw or your lower jaw. And for an adult, number 4, it looks like a big playing card, like an actual playing card, like a big Uno card, or, you know, an ace of diamonds or something like that, playing card. So it's big like that. You put it in someone's mouth, you take the x-ray, and it will give you 1 arch. We'll talk about what we use each of these x-rays for diagnostic and what we're doing, but that comes a little later. Right now, we're just talking film sizes. So we have 0, children 0 to 3. A number 1 that is for children as well as adult anterior only. And we have a number 2, which is for adult all x-rays and occlusal for children. We have a number 3, which is a preformed bite wing. And we have a number 4, which is an occlusal. So we have 5 film sizes. Awesome. For sensors, there are 3 film sizes. 0, same definitions of them. I'm just giving you the sensor size. 0, 1, and 2. So those are the 3 popular, or the ones that we've seen as far as digital sensors go. Predictable. Okay. That is intraoral. I am going to continue on here to extraoral film tonight and kind of just go until probably until we get to processing, and then wrap up this chapter on Thursday. So we're just going to keep on going. So we talked about intraoral film. We talked about composition. We talked about the packaging. We talked about the box packaging. We talked about the different types, your single packet versus double packet, and why. We talked about film size, and what else? I think that is everything. And we also talked about emulsion, the silver crystals. The larger the crystals, the faster the film. We talked about film speed. They're from A to F. A is the slowest, F is the fastest. So that's intraoral. Now we're going to dive into extraoral. Extraoral is basically 2 types of pictures that we're going to get. We use that big, huge machine that we talked about early on, where it kind of goes around your head, or you're sitting outside the machine and there's a picture that's going to get like your profile. So one is a panoramic view and the other is going to be your profile view, like a portrait. What are extraoral film used for? We're going to use them for examining large areas of our head and jaws in one shot, okay? Common extraoral films are your panoramic. A panoramic X-ray is a panoramic view of the upper and lower jaw relationship together. And your cephalometric is going to show the bony and soft tissue areas of your facial profile. What does that mean? Bony and soft tissues mean it's going to get your profile, your side view. It's going to, orthodontists use this a lot to measure, hey, does their jaw jut out? Do their teeth overlap? Do they have an overjet, an overbite, an underbite? Is this in relative sequence? They use a lot of math doing it, right? To understand that profile, and that's what we're looking at, the bony projections and the soft tissue. Where is that all in relation to in your profile? What's sticking out? What's happening? Your film packaging is much different in extraoral, meaning that each film, each extraoral, whether it's a panoramic film or cephalometric film, they are not individually packaged. They are grouped in one package. So if you have a box of 50 panoramic film, you're going to open a box and it has all 50 film in it. Well, oh my God, we have to do something about this. Like, how do we get it into the machine, or how do we, produce it? There's no protection over it. I'll get in that in a second, but that's how this comes. They're not individually packaged like intraoral. So there are, before I get into that, there are 2 sizes of film. Panoramic has one size. It's 5x7. So it's 5 wide and 7 long to capture the full jaw. And your cephalometric looks just like a picture, or a profile picture. It's an 8x10, okay? So 5x7 is your panoramic, and an 8x10 is your cephalometric, your profile picture. So those are the only 2 sizes we have in there. Because the film is outside the head and it's pretty far from how it's traveling, certain film actually needs some type of screen, which is called an intensifying screen, so that it captures or intensifies the radiation, the very little radiation that it uses to capture that image very clearly, being that it's so far outside of our face, like at least 10 or 12 inches or 6 to 10 inches away. So we need that intensifying screen. Now, just like intraoral packaging, the box itself, it's going to be labeled with the type of film, pan or ceph. It's going to have this film size, 5x7 or 8x10. It's going to have the total number of films, 25, 50, 75, 100. And it's also going to give us the expiration as well as the speed of the film as well, okay? The composition of the film itself, regardless if it's a pan or a ceph or intraoral, is all made the same. Plastic acetate, adhesive, emulsion, silver crystals, protective coat, okay? That does not change. And it's on both sides of extraoral film, just like intraoral. So extraoral films, as I said, they do not have an individual film pack. That means that we have to be in the dark room when we go to open up their packaging and when we place it in what's called a film cassette. Now you're like, well, what's a film cassette? A film cassette is what we attach, we put the film in and we attach it to the X-ray machine itself, okay? So it's not going in their mouth, it's actually attaching to the machine. So a film cassette is either going to be plastic or metal. It holds the film and protects it from light exposure. Great. So I have to be in the dark room to be able to take my film out of a multi-pack, put it in my cassette, lock my cassette up, put all of my put them back into the box, store it in a very nice place, and we can open the light to the dark room, and it's safe once that cassette is closed to walk out and put it onto my machine. Awesome. We don't have to, it can be rigid, there's flexible styles, it doesn't matter. It's all compatible to what machine you have. It dictates what kind of cassette you need, okay? So we don't have to think about like, oh, well, do I want this one or this one? It's like, hey, you got to use this because this is what that machine is built for. We don't have to worry about the lead or anything crazy like that. There is just one way we can put that film on the machine. It's going to say right and left, and then on the machine it says right and left. You match it, you Velcro it, or you snap it in, and we're done. We don't have to worry about, well, where's the lead foil? Is it going to go through? Am I going to get a herringbone? None of that. There's no need for any of that. It's already dictated and it's already stated on your cassette. The film has no regard to it. It's blanket. It has emulsion on both sides. It doesn't care. I'm putting it in the cassette and it's like said and done. We don't have to think about it, which is great. The front side is going to be, again, plastic of the cassette, not the film, okay? So the front side of the cassette that we're using is going to be plastic or a material that is accommodating to that machine, and it will permit the passage of the X-ray beam through, and it's always going to face the patient. Again, we don't have to think about it. We have the right and left. We're going to pop it right in. It tells us there's only a one way out kind of way to set that up. The back side of the cassette will either have a metal or a different type of material that will reduce the scatter radiation, very similar to the intraoral film packet, but it's in the cassette, not in its individual package, okay? We're literally taking the film out in a dark room and placing it in an individual package so that we can take a picture. Now, I mentioned intensifying screen, and an intensifying screen is exactly that. It is made to intensify the effective radiation so that we can decrease the amount of exposure time needed to take that picture, okay? Typically it is going to be it'll be in the front and back of the x-ray. So the intensifying screen, you have your cassette, you have your intensifying screen inside, your film's going to slip in the center of that, almost like the black paper, where that intensifying screen is in both. So it can capture and enhance that radiation. The intensifying screen is coated with phosphor. We said that earlier. Phosphor is super sensitive to radiation. That's what makes it intensifying. It also can vary in speed and exposure requirements. So you always have to read what the manufacturer of your machine wants you to use and buy it and use that particular type accordingly. It is not mixed and match. Everything is very deliberate and determined, and you have to kind of follow that suit in order for it to properly work. We want to make sure that when we're putting film in and out and moving that cassette around, that we don't scratch the screen or bend the cassette in any which way, because if we did scratch the cassette, it'll leave a white line and it'll interfere on the film when we go to process it. You'll have this big white line in there because we had scratched the picture, scratched the film. Okay. Now, because not all panoramic Ceph machines need a screen, an intensifying screen, so there's going to be a screen type film that you need an intensifying screen, and a non-screen type film that you don't need an intensifying screen. Again, it'll tell us. However, I do want to mention this in case you ever do take the test or hear this, you hear a couple of items. So under screen film, those screens are sensitive to light, right? That's what makes it intensifying. There's two types of light that are, it's going to be either be a blue light intensifying screen where it uses that calcium, that tungstate, or a green light, which is a rare earth element. Okay, so I think of green grass, where it's earth, it's earthy. Blue is like sky, you know, lights up. That's how I kind of determine that. So it's either going to be a blue or a green. Again, individually, they're just two different kinds, but those are the types of screens that you can get. Again, determine it on the machine, the manufacturer. A non-screen film doesn't need intensifying at all. It's exposed directly to the light, and the emulsion is super sensitive to the direct light of the direct X-ray exposure. It may need more exposure time than if we used a screen film, okay? Typically, we do not use non-screen film in dental. It is not recommended. We use a screen film. So we want to intensify it. Why? Again, to lower the amount of radiation used. Good. And last but not least, couple slides to finish and get through, duplicating film. As I said earlier, duplicating film only has emulsion on one side. Let's explain it like this. If I were to have a piece of paper, and this is where my radiograph was, right? I want to photocopy or duplicate this X-ray, imaginary. I'm going to need what's called a duplicating machine, which literally looks like a copier, and it works just like a copier. It has a white light underneath it. So let's say I wanted to take this X-ray and I wanted to duplicate it. I would take my duplicating film, lay it down. I would put, I would take the emulsion side facing, well, okay, let me rewind. I would take what I want to copy face down on my duplicating machine. So picture of tooth, face down on my duplicating machine, just like you're going to photocopy. Then I take my duplicated or my duplicating film, emulsion side, it only has one side, against the X-ray. Close it, copy. The light shines through my X-ray, my original, onto the emulsion side. That is how a duplicating machine and duplicating film works. Takes the original, shines light through it, captures it on the one-sided emulsion. I know that's quick. I wrote that down, but does that make sense? It literally is like we're photocopying on a piece of paper, just on top of it. Does that make sense, guys? Like how that operates? I'll read through it in a moment, but the concept, okay. Thumbs up, good? Cool. Okay, so for duplicating film, there's a couple of rules. We only can use in a dark room. And second rule is we never can expose it to X-rays itself, to electromagnetic radiation itself. We're going to get a black picture, okay? It only has emulsion on one side. So we never, ever use duplicating film to take an X-ray on somebody, okay? It is only for duplicating purposes. Just so you're aware, how do you tell which side has emulsion or not? The emulsion side, when we look at it, is super dull, and the without emulsion side is like shiny plastic. So that's how we know which gets faced toward the what we're duplicating and which doesn't. The sizes to which duplicating film come are size number 2, 5 by 12, and 8 by 10. So I don't have duplicating film in every size of an X-ray because I really don't need it. I can put a 0 and a 1 and a 2 on a 2, okay? I can put a panoramic on a 5 by 12. I can put a full mouth set of X-ray, which is 18 number 2s on a 5 by 12. So that's why there's only really 3 sizes: your size number 2, your 5 by 12, and your 8 by 10 for a Ceph. I can't fit a Ceph on anything else. There is only one size for that. What do we use this for? Duplicating to send to when we refer patients to like a specialist, if we're sending it to insurance, if we need it for, God forbid, legal purposes, or transfer of records. That's the reason why we would duplicate originals. We never send the copy. It's just creating an identical copy. You do need a duplicating machine, which is literally nothing more than a big box with a flash of white light in it. And we do have to use it in a dark room. So if you had that, it's going to be in a dark room setting. Now, last but not least for this evening, and I'm running a few minutes over, but it's okay, is how do we store film? Super important. So one, our storage temperature ranges from 50 degrees to 70 degrees with a humidity between 30 and 50. Well, you're like, but where do we store it? You can store it in a couple of different places. You can store it in a refrigerator because that would hit the mark on any of that. Or you can store it in a dark storeroom away from a heat source, okay? But typically, most people, they do put it in a small refrigerator that's, sole purpose is to store supplies, not our lunch or anything like that, but that's what range we want to store the temperature. We do not ever want to keep film in our treatment room or near a radiograph unit in case, one, there's any leakage or radiation coming out, God forbid. And the second reason is we're taking X-rays in our treatment room. So any X-rays that are out or any film that's out will get exposed and all of it's going to be garbage. We can't use it. So all film has to be stored outside of treatment rooms. And as repeated before, we want to make sure we rotate our stock. So we're using the oldest version of it. We never want to use expired film because we'll get fog film and that is an issue. So we want to make sure we look at the expiration date on the bottom of the box. We want to move forward what's the oldest, and we put our new or the most recent that we purchased that has a later expiration date in back. So we're just rolling the inventory out. Guys, that is all I have for this evening. On Thursday, we have about 6 slides to go over for film processing, and I'll do one last review, and then we'll test over the weekend again. And then when we meet again after the holiday, we'll get started on a new chapter or a new portion that's a little bit deeper than what we've done so far. So I will make sure I get everybody. I thought I sent all these PowerPoints out, but I will resend everything, including the new stuff and these videos, so that everybody is up to date. Just give me like 24 to 48 hours. I should get them done by tomorrow afternoon. If no one has any questions, have a great night. Oh, Bree's typing. Hold on. Oh, bye. Bye, Bree. Thank you. Have a good night, guys.